Well, 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 it says you are live. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. And for those of you who join faithfully and consistently, welcome. For those of you who are new here, extra special welcome. I am so honored to have this incredible guest, but I'm not going to introduce her yet. I am going to do my pleasantries first. My pleasantries include that we're all so very blessed and happy to be alive. One. Two, we really have to give thanks that we are those who are in sisterhood that believes in edifying one another. We are those who lift one another up, and everybody doesn't necessarily share that beauty. And so I believe that when we can find a space where we can do that one for another, we've got to really give thanks for that. And so I'm thankful for those of you who are joining live. I'm very thankful for those of you who are going to catch the replay. This evening, I want you to use your comment section and type as if there's no tomorrow. And most importantly, for those of you who are new here, I will formally introduce myself. Hello, and I'm Marsha-Ann. I am your hostess with the mostess for the Real Talk Show, Real Talk with Marsha-Ann. And this is purely out of passion, where this entire Real Talk Show was birthed out of the desire first for myself to do this afraid. And here I am still doing it and have had more courage because it has benefited so many, to include myself. But Real Talk is a space where we're meant to engage one another, encourage one another, empower one another, equip and educate one another to truly live our best lives. And my desire each day is for God to use me as a conduit, for you to ensure that you're walking in your purpose, that you are powered by passion, that you are filled with God's peace and enriched with prosperity. And so if nothing else, this whole YouTube channel and the whole ethos of Real Talk, I expect that it's going to be a blessing for you today. So, who do we have in the house? Listen, I had to reach out and I had to say to her, no, you have to help me to pronounce your name. And even with her efforts at pronouncing her name, I just said, it's all right. I'm going to call you what I know you. And that's when you're copping out and making life easy, right?
Right.
But Dr. Rennes, have I pronounced that properly, relatively properly?
It's perfecto. Perfect.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so happy that you're joining us. And look at us. Talk about heart-minded and like-minded. We are dressed in our solid shades,
Yes.
vibrant yellows or golds. And I love the queendom that you just present yourself in. We know that we're all those who have a crown, and there's only one posture to have when you wear a crown, and that is our heads have to be held high. We can't hold a crown with our head hanging down, can we? So as queens, heads up. So let me tell you who Dr. Rennes is, and I will ask, why don't you give us your full name and then I'll read your bio. Say it for everyone.
So my name is Dr. Rennes Keshinro.
I'm going to say it again.
Dr. Rennes Toussaint-Keshinro.
Dr. Rennes Toussaint-Keshinro.
Yes.
All right. And after that, I'm just saying Dr. Rennes because I really want to keep it right.
Keep it simple.
And so Dr. Rennes is a doctor of chiropractic, mental wellness coach, and mental health advocate. Her journey includes her migration to the US at age 13 and struggling to find her identity, which eventually led her on a self-discovery journey, emotionally as well as literally. She spent 3 years in South and Central America. We can't wait to hear about that. Away from everyone she loved, but that opened the door to her self-love as well as her healing. This was when she began dancing for her mental health. Dance for Mental Health encourages women who are suffering in silence to discover their identity, their voice, and to take back their power. She understands the connection of the physical and mental body and why they should not be looked at separately. Her goal is to inform, educate, and build awareness about mental health, especially in the Black community. She is also the owner of Sign of Strength, LLC, a mental health awareness shop. Her advocacy with National Alliance on Mental Illness, New York, is in support of integrating mental health education in the educational system. Ladies, queens, all of you who are listening to Real Talk Live, Debs, welcome. And for those of you who are catching the replay, to my faithful ones who come and occupy the front row every Sunday, extra welcome to you. Dr. Rennes, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's fantastic to have you. And if anyone knows anything about you, you see the sass that she brings, you see the big fro, the look. She's an entire vibe and an entire mood. And in fact, I refer to her as a magnet. See, everyone is already telling you, welcome, welcome. It's a family
Thank
here, Dr.
you.
Rennes.
Thank
It's your
you,
first
guys.
time being here, but it's a family here. And we are
Hopefully
those
not the
who
last.
really strengthen one another. So welcome to the family.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Dr. Rennes is a magnet of positivity, but I am sure she will be open enough to say this all that she carries in apparent strength and positivity did not happen overnight and is still always a walk and a journey. I believe so many believe that those who appear positive don't fight battles. It's just how you fight them and how you choose to have God guide you through them. So, Dr. Rennes, tell us more about yourself before we get into this very important topic.
Okay, like you mentioned in my bio, I was born and raised in the Caribbean. So we are Caribbean sisters. I'm from the island of Dominica, and I came to the US when I was 13. And at that time, I really struggled finding my identity. If any of you are from like an immigrant family, you understand the process it takes to, migrate to a new country, a new environment. And it was a struggle for me. And my parents did the best that they can. Like they wanted the better life for us, my siblings and I, but they neglected the whole process of adapting to a new environment. So I went through my younger years, my college years, like people pleasing just because I didn't know who I was. And like you said, literally my idea of success was, go to school, you get a degree, right? You get a career and everything will be great. But we all know like the degrees and the things don't make us happy, right? That paper, as expensive as it is, it's not that in itself is not fulfillment. So when I walked across the stage, I got my degree, I was at my lowest point, honestly, and I felt so lost. I didn't know who I was. Like I had a doctor in front of my name, a DR, and I didn't know who I was. So I literally went on a self-discovery journey where I took a position in Peru. I went there by myself, knew absolutely no one, but sometimes I felt like I was running away, but really and truly, God probably called me there because the people that I met was beyond what I could ever imagine. I built so many strong relationships with other people, but most importantly, the relationship with myself. I had to take myself out of my comfort zone, my normal environment, to really work on me, and also for me to listen to what God has to say to me, right? Too many times our surroundings, or things that we're familiar with, blocks us from hearing from God. And that was a huge key for me. And at that time, I had to use what I knew. Like, I always loved dancing. I'm from the Caribbean. You go to parties and you feel good. But I would find myself like very anxious in the morning going to work. And we all know healing is not a pretty journey. It's not. It's a very ugly journey. So in the mornings, I was having a difficult time. I was like, how can I break through this? So I literally just started playing music and dancing. I was like, wait a minute, whoa! Like instantly, my whole attitude would switch, and I was like, this is something. But at that time, I didn't call it dance or mental health. I was like, I just felt great. But as I did the work, I did coaching, I did therapy, I really understood that this that form of physical activity is really what was helping me feel better. It decreases my anxiety, decreases my depression. And that's why I wanted to share. When you see me online dancing, it's because I really want to share that energy and share the gift and just encourage everyone to move their body, to help not only the physical. You know, a lot of people think about movement to like lose weight and things like that, but it really does help our mental state. So this is where I'm at now. I moved 3 years later. I went for 1 year. I spent
Wow.
3 years abroad. I moved back here in New York. I still practice full time as a chiropractor. And what I see a lot in practice, a lot of people come to me with neck pain and the back pains, but there is such a it's a connection between emotional, your mental health, and your physical body. A lot of times I see the physical pain is a manifestation of the emotional and the mental, the stress. And a lot of times people don't make that connection. So though I practice full time as a chiropractor, like I believe mental health is my purpose, it's
Wow.
my passion and my purpose. And that is why I am connecting the two, the physical, the movement, and the mental health. So that's a little about me in a nutshell.
That's such an important part to be able to really hone in on, though, because you've said something that's very poignant. And I know I can speak to this personally, and that is the whole connection with physical health and mental and emotional health. I have been at my best in the last several months because I have released a lot of what I would have had as emotional stress, emotional baggage, and I literally have let it go. And I have been, thanks be to God, am I the most healthiest I have been in a long time, right? And so a lot of us will tell you that you're the doctor, so you know we wear the stress in our shoulders and in our back and everything else. So movement, even just the fact that we're moving, I see the joy when you are dancing. Like, that's so infectious. So did you start that when you were alone and then you began to do it a lot more when you were in South and Central America?
No, I did it just for myself. I was afraid to share it. It's like, what are people gonna think? Like, girl, you're a doctor. Why?
Why
You know,
the
the inner critic, starts, popping up. Like, what are people gonna think? You start doubting yourself. And I know specifically when I came back, I felt a void. I was like, there's something more I need to be doing. And I know God told me mental health. So I was like, oh, mental health, great. I'll sell t-shirts. That's where my mental health shop came from, right? I started selling the Mental Health Matters t-shirts. I have an Etsy store. And a year in, I literally felt God tugging on my heart again. It's like, okay, the t-shirts are cute, but that's not what I told you to do. You need to go a little bit deeper. You need to do a little bit more. And that's when I connected the dance with the mental health. And but when I was in Peru, I did become a certified life coach, but I wasn't really doing anything with it. But then that's how I made the connection.
You said that you could feel the tug for you. And when you were talking about mental health and dance, you spoke about your purpose and your passion. And yet still prior to that, you spoke about your void. And I believe that a lot of folks tend to stick with what is familiar.
Absolutely.
But there's no passion, there's no joy, but it's what's known, it's familiar, so it's comfortable. Yet still, when you do what sets your soul on fire and you have the combination of purpose and passion, that really is where truly we're ignited.
Of course. On top of that, I spent how many years? 18, 16 years. I don't know the number. Years of going to school to study that particular thing. And I don't know where I got that from. Like, you have to go to school, you have to study this particular degree. And I was faced with the guilt of like, wow, I did all this work and I'm not satisfied. Like, what is wrong with me? I went through a phase like, this is not normal. Like, so I really started doubting myself. That's what it took me from the day I started, from the time I started doing the Dance for Mental Health thing. It took me 5 years to actually launch it online. I launched it during the pandemic, right before the pandemic. Yes, it took me
Wow.
5 years to get there. Yeah.
And would you say that was doubt?
It was
What
doubt.
caused
Oh,
that
yes. The
procrastination?
doubt, the imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
the being trying to be a perfectionist, the fear of criticism. Yeah. We are gonna get to that though. That's procrastination in a nutshell. It took me 5 years to finally launch this thing that I knew in my heart that it worked. I know it worked for me. I know it worked for other people, but
Mhm.
the procrastination held me
Mhm.
back from doing it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I read so many quotes on, yes, Dee, you said it best. She said
Yeah.
the education is a Caribbean thing,
Oh, yes.
where,
Absolutely.
this push for the degree, the push
Uh-huh.
for this particular type of degree, and,
Mm-hmm.
that it is a status symbol that this
Yeah.
is what you must do.
Yeah.
And there's some fields that are not even entertained as, what do you mean that's what you want to do, which is
Right.
so wrong, because
Yeah.
so many have a natural tendency from early, but go against the grain and fight
Right.
against it like a river trying to claim a different course,
Yeah.
so yes. And Keish, you've said it best, that we tend to reside in our comfort
Comfort
zone due
zone.
to
Mm-hmm.
familiarity.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
familiarity, we know what it does. I read some great quotes on procrastination, and there's
Yeah.
one that I have reread so many times and I could not find it this evening, but one of the ones that I believe resonates so well is: procrastination is the fear of success. People
Mm-hmm.
procrastinate because they're afraid of the success that they know will result if they move ahead now, because success is heavy. It
Yeah.
carries a responsibility with it. And it's much easier to procrastinate and live on the someday I'll philosophy. And I know I
Mm-hmm.
have had that,
Oh,
and I know I
yes.
still have that.
Yes.
The truth is, we live out our lives putting off all that can be put off.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we all know deep down that we are immortal and that sooner or later all men will do and know all things. The fact is, time is limited.
Yes. Yeah.
And we need to stop this procrastinating. We have 6 months left in this year, as long as God spares our life to the end of the year. Please get us quacking. Talk to us. Why do we
We procrastinate.
procrastinate? And what is it that we need to do to stop procrastinating? Preach.
Okay, first we have to start with the definition of procrastination. Procrastination is basically you just putting off something for a later time. So I look at like different tasks of procrastination in two ways, right? We have the task that we procrastinate where there's a deadline, where there is consequences if you don't complete that task. For example, a project at work or assignment at school. If you don't complete that project, if you don't turn it in on time, for example, your job might be in jeopardy, right? Then we have other procrastination like our desires and our dreams, but there's no consequences if we don't do it there's no deadline. But the long-term consequences is worse because you get stuck in a cycle. Years pass by, it's like, oh my God, what have I done with my life, right? So why do we procrastinate? We have to take it back. Like and one thing I must say is we do not procrastinate because we're lazy. Let's get that out the way. Procrastination is not because you are lazy. And I'll use myself as an example. Growing up in a Caribbean household, I grew up around women who are very like hard workers, amazing, strong women, right? Do all things. And early on, I was like, I'm not doing that. I grew up with my mom who ran her business, took care of the home. help everyone around her. I just saw her work. So I loved that. I admired that about her. But I always knew earlier on, I'm not doing all of that. I'm getting help, you know? So from an early age, like I heard it all. And I'm also the youngest. So that's not really, that's not an excuse. But I grew up hearing all the time, or you're lazy. Oh, you don't want to clean. You don't want to cook. You're lazy. Cooking is not my thing. It's not my ministry, and it still ain't. I even told my husband now, if I'm not cooking out of love, I'm not doing it. I'll just order out or buy something. But I grew up hearing that you're lazy all the time, and that became my inner critic. Even when I got older, I didn't understand what was procrastination, but I always think that I'm lazy. Right. And that creates a lot of anxiety and depression and the guilt, like what's wrong with me? Why am I being lazy? Why I don't want to do these things? And that's why it's important as parents, what we speak into our children. The intention might be there, but kids remember those things and they soak it in as like a sponge, right? So procrastination is not because you are being lazy. Okay. Now, what procrastination is a result to a stress response. So if you have a particular task, for example, you're studying for an exam or you have an exam coming up, and you immediately say like, oh my God, this is hard. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Oh my God, I feel I'm going to fail. That triggers, your brain looks at that as a threat. So that triggers your fight or flight response. And that response is the exact same response that your brain releases when you're in actual danger. For example, if you're crossing the road and a car is coming, your instinct is to run and get out the way. Or if a lion or something is chasing you, your instinct is to get out the way, right? The thing is, our brain does not know how to differentiate like an actual danger, like, oh my God, I'm going to die, than a thought like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't do this. Like, I feel like I'm going to fail this exam. So your body responds the same way. So our brain always seeks to get pleasure and avoid pain. So when we have that thought like, oh my God, this is hard. I'm not sure if I could do this. You're automatically going to avoid it and do something else. That's what procrastination is. It boils down to the thought that you're having about the task, right? Oh, I don't want to pay this bill, or I don't have enough money, like things like that. Your brain sees it as a threat and it immediately tells you avoid it, do something else. So instead of working on that paper, you're scrolling Instagram because that feels good. I call that false. It's not a terminology I created, but it's called false pleasures. Like the things that we do to avoid that task, to avoid feeling that negative feeling, right? So you scroll instead of doing, you have a paper due, you have a project, you have a deadline, but you're scrolling on Instagram or watching Netflix because that's what feels good at the time. It's a threat to your brain. But the key is that we have to understand we do control our thoughts. That thought that you're having, that negative thought about the task, you're in control, and you could change that thought to something positive. So then your brain don't say, okay, this is a threat. That makes sense?
Yes, a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And especially the whole notion of false pleasure, where it really is delaying instead of confronting or addressing.
Yeah. So at the same time, when you have that fight or flight response, you're shutting down your prefrontal cortex, which is a part of your brain that is responsible for long-term thinking, and long-term gratification, which is opposite from what we're used to in our society. We like stuff instantly. I want to feel good right now. So when we in the fight or flight, which is a stress response, we shut that down. We also shut down our discipline and we shut down our creativity.
Say that again.
So when we shut down, when we're in the stress response, you shut down your long-term thinking, your long-term gratification, because in our society we like things quick. And you shut down your creativity and your discipline. And that all starts with a thought that your brain sees as a threat. So it all boils down to the thought we are having about the thought we're having about the particular task. Somebody said false pleasure is the easy. Yes, it's easy. It's easy because our brain always wants to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Because back in the days, because that's how we survive. We avoid the pain and we seek pleasure. Like we eat, like overeating, over drinking, over Facebooking. All those things are false pleasure because we all are guilty of it. Let me tell you. We all are guilty. It's so funny. My husband tell me, "Oh, what you talking about today?" I was like, procrastination. He was like, "You're the queen." He was like, "You're the queen of that." Like,
that makes you the expert on the subject.
He's like, "You're a queen of that. Oh, you're gonna do good."
So we definitely have to get to the root, and then have the strategies in mind, you know?
Yes. And another thing is we can't talk about procrastination without bringing up things like perfectionism. Because perfectionism is a facade, it's an excuse. A lot of us think, and I include myself, I'm a recovering procrastinator. But we tend to we think like, oh, everything has to be perfect. And I think you touched on that a little bit in your quote. We think that, oh, everything has to be perfect before I launch or have to be ready to start this business, right? Meanwhile, we're just delaying the feeling of possibly failing. We're delaying the feeling of being embarrassed, right? So we make it as an excuse. Oh, I'm just waiting. I'm not ready. Things have to be perfect. And that causes procrastination. But really and truly, we all know nothing is going to be perfect, right? We're never going to be fully ready to do anything. And the sooner that we put ourselves out there, the sooner we do that thing, the better, the quicker we're going to learn from our mistakes. We are going to make mistakes, you know. And I know our coach, Patrice Washington, always say you get confidence in the doing. Just do that thing, right? Don't matter. Just put yourself out there. Apply for that job. You know, take that exam to become a nurse or whatever it is. Put yourself out there, and that's the only way we're going to progress in life. We're going to grow because there's no growth in our comfort zone. And another thing you also mentioned when we were talking about doing the show, you were talking about analysis paralysis. Is the same thing. You try to overanalyze the situation. You overthink, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And that's another thing I am releasing myself of. I'm releasing myself of being in control, surrendering.
Yeah.
And that is what caused a lot of procrastination for me. Like I try to, like, before, when I'm working through it, I want to know, oh, how people is going to think about this, how people are going to perceive this. I wonder, you know, you want to get in people's brain about how they go. You want to get in people's brain to see so that you can see how they perceive you before you take action. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
That's not faith. And I'm learning that. Let go of the control of having everything to be perfect, wanting to overthink everything. Just let go of that. And all of those things causes procrastination. And it all comes from the thought that you're having about the particular task and about yourself. You might feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. All those things create self-doubt. It creates lack of self-confidence, because we're never going to be perfect. And if you're waiting to be perfect, you're going to keep saying, what is wrong with me?
Right. That is a fact. I mean, I
Yeah.
believe one of the biggest, I'd love to see some comments on that if you're all able to relate to that, because one of the things that we identify is we are our toughest critics
Oh, of course. 1,000%.
all the time.
All the time. The things we say
And
to ourselves, we will never
yeah,
say that to other people.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then folks will find the strengths and giftings in us, but yet still we don't see it as they do,
Yes.
because we go into the doubt or we go into
Yes.
fear. You know,
Yes.
it's not easy to confront our fears and live in faith. If we're living in the faith, then procrastination tends to be subdued. That is
Yeah,
so true,
absolutely.
because faith then supersedes that. That is
Yes.
a fact, right? But if we're going to expect to get ahead, we can use small examples. Last week, we spoke about the importance of making very small changes,
Mm-hmm.
which over time leads to big results. And I've been practicing it,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
has been working. But one thing I know for sure is that if we look at whatever we want to do as this mammoth task, it becomes so overwhelming that we believe we're not capable or we can't manage. And so
Mm-hmm.
procrastination becomes the biggest snowball.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's part of overcoming your procrastination. I'll go through the steps of how to work on overcoming your procrastination, because number one, you have to know why you want that thing, why you want to do that particular task. Right? Is it something that you really want to do, or if this is something that your mom said you should do, or like we were saying earlier, like, is that society tell you to do this thing, right? Analyze your why for doing it first and foremost. Then you get into, okay, be honest. This is where you get super real with yourself. Like, why am I avoiding this? What am I afraid of? What am I fearful of? Yes, a lot of times people are afraid of failure. They have fear of failure, but also there's a fear of success. If that business takes off, like, oh my God, what I have to change in my life, like, what am I going to do if I pass this exam? Like, oh my God, now I have to go to school. Now I have to like pay for school. Like, oh my God, like I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is what I want. But if I succeed, what do I have to change about myself? And again, it's all about getting uncomfortable. And a lot of people are afraid of that, even though they say this is what they want, but they are afraid of the success. And then you want to know, what are you afraid of and when it comes up, right? So if you're studying, we'll take the studying, for example, for an exam, or you want to launch something. When does that feeling of procrastination comes up, right? When exactly? You want to note it. And then you want to create a new thought on purpose. Fear of acceptance. Ooh, that's a good one. Yes, that is a really good one. Yeah, yeah. And then you want to create a new thought on purpose. So first, you want to write down all the negative thoughts you have about starting the business or quitting your job or taking in the exam. Write down all the negative thoughts you are having and counteract with positive ones. That is something you have to be intentional and practice. Because you can't go from like, oh God, this is hard, I can't do it, to like, oh, I'm doing it. You can, but really it's not believable. It takes time, and we call it like a thought ladder, right? You start with the negative thought, but then try to start with a neutral thought. Something that's believable and neutral. You don't go like, I can't do it, to like, yes, I could do it.
I can.
Right? You can, but it's more believable if you start with a more neutral thought, as in, you know what? I can spend an hour studying. right?
Right.
I could start here. And then later on, you're like, okay, you see the big picture. And then next, you want us to go into what is your plan of action? And that's what you just mentioned. Your plan of action, look at what is the big picture, and you want to break it down to smaller bit size, right? Um, Again, if you have that fear of failure, if you have the fear of success, you want to break it down and start somewhere. Start somewhere. And more specifically, have put it in your first of all, put it in your calendar of when you're going to work on that task and make it non-negotiable. Like at this time, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I am going to work on this task. Or today I'm going to clean my kitchen, and then tomorrow I'm going to clean my bedroom. But be very specific and set aside a time and make it non-negotiable. And that's going to take your willpower to do it, right? And then so you have that action. There's another thing it's very important that you can do is get an accountability partner. Because
Yes.
if you don't have a deadline, if there's especially something that you desire, I want to book this trip, or I want to start this business, have an accountability partner or put it out on social media. I know there's, some negative things about social media, but you putting it out there is holding yourself accountable. That's an example of something you could do. And that is also another another thing that you could do with getting the accountability partner is also I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, so you want to definitely write it in your calendar, get an accountability partner, and break it down to small sizes. Another thing you could do is every day have a top three things that you want to do. Start with 3 things. Today I'm going to write my bio, and I'm going to edit, an article and something else. Start with 3 things and just focus on those 3 things per day. But you want to be specific. Obviously, this is very personal to everyone. Everyone do not have the exact same task, but break down your task into small bites. And lastly, celebrate.
Yes.
Celebrate your small wins. If you wake up today, right, if you wake up early and do, one thing, celebrate that. Because like we were just saying, sometimes we are our hardest critic, and we beat ourselves up. Well, why am I not there yet? Right? So you want to celebrate yourself and focus on your strength. If you're a morning person, get up early and do that task. If you work better in midday, do that. If there's a particular task that you're really, really good at, if it's your strength, focus on the things that you're really good at. And then the other stuff that you're not good at, ask for help. Right?
So,
And yeah.
It's so important. And I think that that's the part that a lot of folks that are on here, names I know, some of the ones I know, because we have postured ourselves as those who tend to achieve. Raising the hand and asking for help does not come naturally to us, but I have embraced its importance that we must be able to understand we need one another, we need each other's help, but also to go where the expertise lies. So
absolutely.
I'm so happy that this is so timely, because as one said, listen, we've got listeners from all over. I forgot to tell you, Dr. Rennes, on here we have folks who are in Canada. Somebody is on here from the UK. And you know what time it is there. We have St. Lucia in the house. We have Jamaica in the house.
My sister island.
Chicago is in the house.
Nice.
And who else is in the house? They're all saying this is very timely, because what I know for sure is if it is that here is what I think is the hardest part, and you
What's
all
it?
need to comment on this if it happens to
Yes.
you too. That is, we procrastinate, right? It haunts us. You don't sleep as well. You know this thing is lingering with you. It's like a weight that you carry. But the action to do is winning over this lingering heavy thought. Am I the only one? I want to hear your comments on that. So like, you know, you
Yes.
have this thing that you need to do. Okay. Let's say it's writing this book with quotes. You know you have it to do. You have it in your head. But the thought of doing it well, and you begin to doubt yourself, so you don't do it. But you can't sleep well, you can't function, because the reality is you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done
I have to
anything.
do.
And then the next day I
Mhm.
haven't done anything. So you feel bad, you feel guilty. So that negativity on top of procrastinating is just so wrong. Am I the only one? No, at least one person says
Absolutely
true.
not.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak on that. It all boils down to the thought. So I teach based on this cycle that our thoughts creates our feelings creates our actions create our results, right? So the circumstance is the task that you have to do. The thought, it triggers a thought about the task, like, oh my God, this is so hard. Oh my God, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it correctly. And that thought triggers a feeling like the feeling of anxiety and fear, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. And if you have fear, guess what? There's no action.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's not the action that you want to take, right? But if we get to the root of why you are avoiding the task, what is the thought you're having, that would literally change the way that you feel about the task, and then you will take action.
Wow.
So our thought creates our feeling, the way that we feel, and how we feel. Because if you have a different thought, you're like, you know what, this is manageable. I think I could get this done within an hour. And that's another good thing you could do when there's tasks. Time yourself. Because if you
Right.
time yourself and you sit down, I give myself 1 hour to write one page in the book, I promise you, you'll get to one page plus more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're like, you know what, I could do this, then the feeling is like you're going to be motivated, like, yes, and then you're going to take action. But if it's a negative thought, chances are you're not going to take that action. And then the result is that procrastination. The
Mm-hmm.
result is that you're digging into you're living with the false pleasures, and oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll just do it later. I'm just going to waste my time doing. You don't tell yourself that, but that's just what
Right.
happens. You just end up wasting your time. So it always starts with a thought, and a lot of times we could change our thoughts. The thoughts you're having about the task, like it is hard, you could literally change that. You could change that thought to something neutral or to something positive that could trigger a different feeling. Changing the way you think about it does help.
Does
Yes,
help. It does.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Change your perspective. How you see things really changes the actions that you take. So at the end of the day, procrastination is just managing. To get overcoming procrastination is to manage your thoughts and your feelings. And all of that, if you're continuously procrastinating, you are sitting in this comfortability of this thought, like, oh, well, it's hard. I don't think I could do it anyway. So, but once you change that thought, and it is going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
When you change, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's still going to trigger a more positive, a better feeling, so you could get the work done. So always know why, the why you're doing the task. If there's not like a real emotion behind why you're doing it, then it's gonna crumble. You're not gonna be motivated.
Do
You
it.
wouldn't have a drive to do it. And you're in a cycle of beating yourself up like, man, why did I not do this? And that's where the anxiety comes from. It's because of the thought that we're having. So
Wow. So then I want to push that a little bit further then, because I value what you've said. If you at least block out the time, you're not thinking about it going on for eternity. So if studying is what needs to be done, this is the time I'm studying for 60 minutes or I'm studying for 90 minutes. Put that timer on, no distractions from false pleasures, get the review done,
yeah.
and then get it out of the way, right?
Yes. And that is why a lot of people claim to be procrastinators. Like, oh, I procrastinate and I get my work done. If that's you, I want you to say it in the chat, because a lot of people claim to be, oh, I'm a procrastinator because I always get my work done regardless. The fear immobilize you sometimes. So change. Oh, that's good. So yeah, so a lot of people claim to be procrastinating, but what happens is, we talked about it earlier, right? When you have the task, let's use the work example. You have a project to do for work. And it's like, I don't feel like doing it. This other coworker should be doing. I'm doing all the work. I'm getting no help. So your brain, the threat at the time is like the task. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. So you're going to procrastinate until the last minute. The threat switches from the task to the deadline. Like, oh my God, I have to get this done, because if I don't get this done, I might lose my job. I will get an F in the class. I will fail the class and have to retake it. So your mind is like, let me get this done right away. So procrast, and that does not feel good all the time.
No.
This does not feel good. At the moment, you're happy, like, whew, I got it done. But the stress is not good for your mental health to constantly do things last minute. So don't adapt the, oh, I'm a procrastinator because I always get, but sometimes it works for some people. Let me take that back. It's not for all people. Sometimes it works for some people. But if you don't like the feeling of having to rush and do everything last minute, it is not for you. It is not for you.
Well, I believe that one of the things then to help us is determining not trying to do everything at one time. So it comes back to the why.
The why.
What really is the top of our list to do, and work on what's at the top. Because if you have those who have very creative minds, there's so many things that will populate in one's mind about what can be done, what they want to do.
Right.
And then to the point where the analysis paralysis comes in, nothing happens.
Yes. Right? Absolutely.
And agreeably, we have 6 months left in this year. And it's not moping about what hasn't been done. It's about coming up with that strategy of getting things done.
Yeah.
So if you were to help us to understand how best to even map out a day to really help us to stop procrastinating, or mapping out a week, or like you say, writing the things down, help us best in that regard.
So you want to put it in your calendar, set aside some time to do that task. Even before that, always the why. If it's for, we understand, if it's for your job, you have to get it done. If it's a job that you want to keep, you have to, we know your why, right? But if it's something that you've always wanted to do, you write a blog or start a YouTube, whatever, what is your why behind doing it? What is your purpose for doing it? And you want to set aside some time and be realistic. Let's use working out. Is working out a good example?
Working out is a
Yes.
very, very good example.
Working out is a good example. Why? Start with why do you want to work out? And a lot of people will say, I want to lose weight, right? And to me, that's still not a good example of good reason, but that's a whole another a story for another day. So be realistic with you with yourself, right? Don't say, oh, I'm gonna work out 5 days a week, or I'm gonna work 7 days. I'm gonna work every single day, knowing that is might not happen, right? Use something realistic. Say, you know what? I'm going to start by working out twice a week. I'm going to start by working out 3 times a week for 20 minutes, right? If this is something that is new to you and unfamiliar, and you know you normally struggle with your inner critic and like the negative self-talk, start small. So put aside 20 minutes 3 times a week. Non-negotiable, no matter what. And a good book I've used to help me with things like that is called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yes.
And the premise is that our brain is lazy. Our brain does not want to overwork. So we have to make tasks easier for our brain. So if you know you're going to work out on Monday morning, you set your alarm, of course, and maybe go to bed with your workout clothes, or keep your workout clothes right in front of your door. So, you know, when you get up, you go straight out the door, you know, you're ready dressed. You make things easier for your brain. So when it's time to actually work, you don't have to really like scramble to do things. Most of the time, chances are that might cause you to procrastinate, right? So set blocks of time for that task, and start small. If you get in the rhythm of doing it 3 times a week for 20 minutes and for like 21 days, because it takes 21 days to create a new habit, because procrastination is a habit. So once you get to that 21 days, like, man, this feels good. Like for the exercise example, focus on how it feels in your body.
Right.
Focus how your body feels when you exercise, when you dance, and things like that. Don't focus on the scale, because that makes people very, very it's very discouraging to a lot of people, and that's why they give up, because they don't see the results quickly enough.
Right.
So get real about your why, not because you want to lose weight. Your why may be, you know what, I want to be healthier for my kids. I want to be able to play with my kids without feeling gassed. I want to, go on vacation and have a good time and not have to worry about what I eat at the time. Like vacation is to, have a good time. Right. So have a very specific why that has an emotion attached to it, a good emotion. So yes, set a time, always, and celebrate your wins. If you do 1 week, 20 minutes of exercise, celebrate that and keep going. Get in a community. Having a community and accountability partners is so huge to overcoming things like procrastination. Because everybody, listen, that procrastination video that I posted, I checked it right before we came here. It had over 80,000 views. Wow. And over 1,000 shares. So a lot of people, especially coming out of the pandemic, going back into the real world, is really hard for a lot of people. So get in community, get with like-minded women or men, and work on it together. Hold each other accountable, and always set a consequence. Something can be a good thing. Like say, okay, if you want to write a book, it's like, okay, at the end of writing this book, I'm going to book my dream vacation, something like that, something that gets you excited. Listen, nothing gets me more excited than a vacation. Okay. I was like, listen, if I work out every day for a month, I am booking a trip to Jamaica.
Come on down.
Exactly. Give yourself a consequence for your actions. That's another good way to nip it in the bud. Like, where it hurts,
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that particular video, which is what led me to reach
Yeah.
out to you, really is it was just so relevant. You know, you spoke about so many different reasons, of which we're
Yeah.
speaking about today. And for those who would be just joining now, there's some folks who have just joined on, and those who are going to catch the replay. This is a good opportunity for you to wrap up with a few pointers. The very first question I would want to have asked, which you've answered before, but it pulls back some of the reasons in the video, you know, whether it
Mm-hmm.
is self-doubt or, you know, these limiting beliefs. So I'm going to want you to really list some of the core reasons why people procrastinate as a recap, and whatever the ones that come to mind, you can share those. And once you have done that,
Mm-hmm.
just that one takeaway to say to us, choose an assignment, choose something that you know you have desired to do, that you have put on the shelf. And here are the two things you need to do after you get off of this live. So let's start
It's
first
good.
by giving that recap on the few
Yes.
points of what are some of the things that really force some folks to just simply not take action.
Yes. So the procrastination is a result of a stress response. And that could be the stress, could be the thought of, I'm not good enough. So you might have self doubt. You might have lack of self confidence. I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I'm good enough. The fear of criticism. You're worried what other people think. You're a people pleaser. So you want to please everyone else around you. It could also be that you're a perfectionist. You're a perfectionist. You want everything to be perfect before you do that thing. You want to be 100% ready. And remember, we all know there's no perfect time to do anything. The perfect time is right now, just to do that thing. You might be an overthinker. You might be an overachiever. Like high achieving personnel struggle a lot with procrastination because we want everything to be perfect. We want people to look at us and say, wow. Or you probably have imposter syndrome, that you don't fully believe in your ability. You're scared of people looking at you as a fraud. So you hold back from doing that thing that you always want to do. So those are really, really the core of procrastination. And again, procrastination is not just because you're lazy. That's not what it is. It's not because the task is difficult. You might be telling yourself it's difficult. You might tell yourself, I'm not able to do it, but that's not the core reason why you procrastinate. Everything starts with the thought that you have about the task that generates the feeling, and the action is do nothing, you procrastinate. So when you get off this live, if there is something, if it's a final project, I don't care when is the deadline. I want you to map out, do an outline and break it down. Tomorrow, I'm going to do I'm going to do the intro, or tomorrow I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to sign up my business. I'm going to register my LLC. Just start somewhere. Just start. Put yourself out there. Unless you do that, you're going to be stagnant. And that's what makes people so unhappy. If we're not progressing in life, that creates unhappiness in our lives. So my number one takeaway is start. Just start. And make set apart some time and make it non-negotiable. That's it.
Wow.
Even if it's 2 minutes, I'm going to meditate for 2 minutes, whatever it is. I'm going to read my affirmations for 2 seconds. Set apart some time, put an alarm in your phone, which is very, very helpful for me. When I have a task to do, I put an alarm and I say, go. When we give ourselves a deadline, give yourself a deadline. When you do that, you're less likely to like start having those thoughts and the negative thoughts and the emotions creep up. You're just like, you know what? This is the deadline. I'm going to do this. So just start.
Just start. Just start. Last week we said small changes. This week we're saying just start.
Just start.
Yeah, just start. Wow. Yeah. You know, I believe all of us could have used this topic.
Yeah.
I believe all of us needed this reminder. I know I for sure did.
Yeah.
I for sure want us to stop telling ourselves, boy, I'm known to procrastinate, or we will fulfill what we say we know.
Exactly. Your brain will find reasons to prove you right every single time. If you keep on saying I'm a procrastinator, guess what? You're going to procrastinate every single time.
Yes, that is a fact. That's a fact. I have to highlight this person here who has never, ever, ever, since we started Real Talk last year, she too has never, ever missed an episode. She sent me a voice note thinking she was going to be missing tonight, and she made it. So that's a big commitment. But commitment is a big part of procrastination in every level, right?
Oh yes.
So whatever it is that we want to do, the importance of a serious accountability partner does make a big difference.
Yeah.
And not somebody who's going to really be easy on us, but somebody who is really going to be committed and consistent, as we ought to be for them too.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. And an accountability partner doesn't mean that we are accountable to each other for keeping a goal. Some might be different. So in other words, Dr. Rennes, maybe you have something that I can be your accountability partner for, but you are not the person to hold me accountable for my exercise program.
Exactly.
It might have to be somebody else.
Exactly.
You know? And so it's really important that we take our lives so seriously that we understand that every day passes. So I want to say, be comfortable. We become too comfortable with putting things off. Absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Because it's the easier thing to do. It's so much easier to be, I'm not going to get to this because it's taking too much effort. But for everyone that's on here is what I can say as I use myself as a raw example tonight. By about next week, it would have been 1 full year that Real Talk would have begun. A year.
Congratulations.
And when I think, and I couldn't do it without everybody that's on here, like I've got true what I consider loyalists. And I have those who have sent the messages about the impact of Real Talk. But I can tell you that I was very uncomfortable doing it. I also never knew the how. I mean, I just did not know exactly what to do. And every day I learned more. I always, I prayed to get guidance. There are those who had the technical knowledge. I didn't have it. My best friend who is on here said, no, I'm not happy with the sound. So let's make sure we fix it. I didn't have that kind of knowledge or expertise. I wanted to have migrated to YouTube for a long time ago. I still beat up on myself for not doing that from then. But I can't live in the past because those episodes from IG, the quality is so inferior in comparison to the clarity of YouTube. But here is the difference that I think I want all of us to know. And thank you so much. Everybody has to tune in for 1 year,
Yes.
All of us are in this together. But here is what I believe I want to highlight. When I started, I said, I'm going to try my best. I was uncomfortable. My knees knocked. I was so ridiculously nervous. And I said I would do 1 month. Wow. 1 month. And I can safely tell you that now that we're at 46 episodes.
Woo.
Not 4, 46. Season 1 and season 2 combined.
Wow.
I'm sharing it because it was probably the first thing that I can truly say I did totally afraid. And I want to, thanks, Opal. Opal says IG served its purpose. You know what? You're right. IG did serve its purpose. It served its purpose for getting me comfortable. But here is what I also want to encourage everybody about, as I'm still learning and growing, and all of us are, that we're not to be so hard on ourselves for not getting it right. There were times that it was so much easier to stop and to quit, because it's not easy to think of the episodes, to think of the guest. It's easy because it's in the comfort of home. My schedule is around it. So even if we're traveling out of town, I've got to be mindful of where I am on a Sunday evening to make it happen. And God has been good in internet connectivity and light. I've had it for it. But I want to encourage someone today, as I have to encourage myself too, that there are other things. This is where I lean in for all of us. There are other things that all of us knew we wanted to do last year when we said we had a break, and we never did it.
Yeah.
And we were always too busy before that to do it. And if I'm stepping on your corn, you can say, yes, that's me. Because guess what? I'm stepping on my own corn. The reason we have to call it out, even if it makes us uncomfortable, like I'm calling out myself, because there were other things I knew I wanted to do in the period of time where we had the height of the pandemic, things slowed down, I didn't do it. And I'm calling out myself today. And when we call out ourselves, the brain is triggered to say, all right, you know what, you're right, you never did it. But it's okay. Start now.
Yes.
So I don't know who else needed to hear start now, but type in the chat, start now. Because when you type it in, and I'll type it in for myself, start now. When we start now, we really, really know that it is our opportunity to kickstart ourselves and to get others to help us along the journey. We don't have to have the answers to everything. But we need those who have the answers to join us. So yeah, our mission is start now.
Yes.
Team Start Now begins.
Activate.
Today.
Yes.
So, Dr. Rennes, thank you. Thank you. I love it. Lorna says guilty as charged. Lorna, I'm with you, my love. I love it. Start now, guilty as charged. Just do it. Right? Yes. Thank you, Keisha. Keisha says that she's proud of me and that I am an inspiration. Could not do it without you, right? So let's put this down. Write it down. Today's the day we understand that we need to kick procrastination to the curb, and we need to start now. And we can do it. One to another, we can do it. Dr. Rennes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We're closing the month of June.
Yes.
It's the last Sunday in June.
Yes.
We're going to kick off July. We're not going to wait until July to happen.
No.
If your mind is like mine, I was the queen of excuses. Well, I can't start exercising until it's a Monday.
Yeah.
But I've started, right?
Yes.
So let's give ourselves that 21-day challenge where we're saying, it's been written, it's been scripted. It takes 21 days to begin to truly form a habit. Let us hold ourselves accountable. You want to learn that skill. You want to have something for your personal or professional development. You want to start eating better. You want to start exercising. You want to write your book. You want to write whatever. You want to do your music lessons. You want to have a concert. You want to teach some children on the side. You want to have a charity. You want to write a poem. You want to start journalizing. Whatever it is, start now. Dr.
Yes.
Rennes, thank you so much for
Thank
being a guest on the
you.
Real Talk Show. Please tell everybody how they can find you, where they can find you, how they can dance with you.
Yes.
Tell them about how they need to get in touch with you, what services you provide as a mental
Yes.
health coach. You've got an international audience. Tell them everything they need to know before we close tonight's show, and we're gonna bob with you.
And I can't believe I didn't mention dancing to help you overcome procrastination. How can I forget that?
Not too late. Tell us.
So dancing and movement will help you overcome your procrastination. When you physically move your body, you trigger that sensor in your brain to say, like, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. Exercises reduces the stress response. Exercising reduces the anxiety and depression and creates a more positive feeling. So yes, dancing. You guys could dance with me every week on Tuesday morning, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'll be dancing in my community on Facebook. You can look for Dance for the number 4 mental health. Join the group. It's a group full of ladies. And you can follow me on Instagram. I am dr.rennes, Dr. Rennes on Instagram. I do coach one-on-one clients on mental wellness, how to change their thoughts to create the actions and the results that they desire. So I am looking forward to connecting with you guys further, Marsha-Ann. I'm so happy to be here. I made it before your 1-year anniversary. I feel honored. Okay. I feel super honored to be here before your 1st year anniversary, and I'll be here to celebrate with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining.
Yes.
Start now. Yes, a lot of food for thought. I agree with you. And another great episode. And I thank you so much. I feel so blessed that when I reach out to my guest and you say a resounding yes, I know that that's because God has deposited in your soul that you've got something to share. And I don't take it for granted. So thanks for giving me your Sunday time. And to everyone else, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. Rennes. Stay online a little bit as we wave everybody off, and I will end the broadcast. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful and a great week. Do not delay. Cheryl says, let's dance.
Yes.
Do not delay. And I am saying, make this a phenomenal week. But decide today what it is. Just one thing. Don't take on anything. Just one thing that you know you want to start now. And start. I'm cheering you on. You're welcome to direct message me on Instagram. Let me help to hold you accountable. I'm more than happy to do that so that we can go on this journey together. All right. Take care, everyone, and be blessed.
Bye.
Bye. Share the episode with somebody, please. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share the episode with someone else who you believe will need it. We don't keep information to ourselves. We are those that share and care. Take care and have a beautiful night.